pause right here. Before you move on, breathe. Once slowly. This message did not reach you by accident. What you whispered in the quiet of the night was heard and something calm but real is beginning to shift. Part 1. When the midnight prayer is answered quietly. Do not rush this. Stay with me. There are prayers that are shouted, and then there are prayers that are whispered so softly they never leave the heart. The midnight carry is like that, it carries no performance, no audience, only honesty. Archangel Michael speaks with reassurance, not urgency. When the prayer is quiet, the answer arrives gently. You may have wondered if anyone heard you. You may have questioned whether silence meant absence. It did not. What heaven responds to first is sincerity, not value. Listen carefully. Your concern about provision, about stability, about doing right by those you love was not judged. It was recognized, and recognition is the beginning of moment. Michael reveals some things important. Change does not always arrive as an event. Sometimes it arrives as clarity. This is why recently your thoughts have slowed, why panic did not rise the way it used to, why your focus shifted from fear to small practical steps. That is not coincidence, that is guidance settling in. Do not scroll, stay with me. Many people expect help to arrive dramatically, but heaven often works through arrangement, lining up timing, perspective, and opportunity so that progress becomes possible without choice. Michael says, provision grows where wisdom is welcomed. You are entering a phase where decisions feel steadier, where options seem clearer, where patience replaces pressure. This is how financial peace brings not with a sudden windfall, but with a steadier path. Listen with me. What is being restored first is confidence. Confidence is your ability to manage what comes next. Confidence to say no to what drains you. Confidence to trust yourself again. That confidence opens doors. Michael explains. When fear loosens its grip, opportunity recognizes you. This is why this message came now, before anything dramatic, before any announcement, so that your foundation is calm. You are not being rushed, you are being prepared. Stay till the end. A message for your heart. You are not behind, you are not forgotten, you are not being tested for punishment. You are being strengthened for sustainability. Heaven is not interested in temporary relief, it is interested in lasting peace. And peace begins with clarity. Michael's assurance is simple. You are guided, you are protected, and you are not alone in this. If this message brought you calm, acknowledge it gently by liking this video. In the comments write I receive clarity. Subscribe to stay connected to messages meant to guide, not pressure you, and share this with 10 people who need reassurance that quiet prayers are still here. When you are ready, say part 2 continue. Part 2, when direction replaces panic. Stay here. Let this settle before you move on. What happens after a midnight prayer is rarely loud. It is subtle. It shows up as a shift in how you think, not just what you receive. Archangel Michael speaks with steadiness. For provision, chances, perceptions must change.
This is why, lately, certain worries no longer spiral the way they once did. You still notice challenges, but they do not control you. That is not avoidance. That is maturity. Listen carefully. Fear shouts. Wisdom speaks quietly. And wisdom is what has been placed around you now. You may have felt an inner nudge to pause before reacting, to ask one more question before deciding, to wait a day instead of forcing an answer. These are not delays. They are protections. Michael explains. When urgency pushes, pause protects. Do not scroll. Stay with me. Why things are feeling different. There was a time when every financial thought carried weight, tightness in the chest, tension in the shoulders, restlessness at night. Now, even if the situation has not fully resolved, the pressure has softened. That softening matters. Pressure clouds judgment. Calm clears it. This is why you are now seeing options you missed before. Not miracles falling from the sky, but practical openings, a conversation that makes sense, a decision that feels right, a boundary that finally holds. Michael says, progress accelerates when resistance fades. What heaven is actually doing. Many imagine help arriving by removing every obstacle. That is not how lasting stability is built. Instead, heaven strengthens your ability to navigate. You are being taught to choose with intention, spend with awareness, plan with patience, rest without guilt. These skills create security that lasts. Do not blink. Michael reveals something important. Stewardship attracts provision. This means what comes next will stay because you are ready for it. A quiet reassurance. If you have felt unseen, understand this. Being guided quietly does not mean being overlooked. It means you are trusted. Heaven does not rush those who are learning to carry responsibility well. And you are learning. You are not meant to chase relief. You are meant to build peace. Michael's words are clear. What you are preparing for requires steadiness, not speed. Stay till the end. What to expect next? In the next phase, you will notice alignment showing up externally through people, timing, and opportunities that fit instead of strain. Not everything will arrive at once. But what arrives will make sense. That is the sign you are on the right path. If this message helped you breathe easier, tap like so it reaches others who need calm guidance. In the comments, write "I choose steady progress." If this is your first time here, subscribe for messages focused on clarity, not pressure. And share this with 10 people who could use reassurance that slow progress is still real progress. When you are ready, say Part 3 continue. Part 3 When trust rebuilds from the inside. Stay with this moment. Do not rush past it. What you are experiencing now is not a sudden breakthrough, it is restoration of trust, and that always begins inward before it shows outward. Archangel Michael speaks calmly. When trust returns, clarity follows. Listen carefully. There was a season when every promise felt fragile. You learned to brace yourself, to expect disappointment, to double-check even good news. That habit protected you once, but it is not meant to follow you forever. Michael explains. Protection that overstays becomes a burden. Do not scroll. Stay with me. Why your heart has been quietly healing. You may not have noticed the change because healing rarely announces itself. It arrives as small shifts. You no longer replay worst-case scenarios. You sleep more deeply. You respond instead of react. You feel steadier after making decisions. These are signs of trust returning, not blind trust in circumstances, but grounded trust in your own discernment. Michael says, discernment is trust matured. This is important. You are not being asked to ignore reality. You are being guided to interpret it accurately. The difference between faith and denial. Faith does not pretend challenges do not exist. Faith recognizes them without surrendering to fear. Michael clarifies. Fear predicts collapse. Faith prepares endurance. That endurance is being built in you now. You may have noticed that certain worries no longer hook you the way they used to. Thoughts still pass, but they do not linger. That is not avoidance. That is strength. Do not blink. What this means for your finances. Money anxiety feeds on uncertainty. When uncertainty fades, anxiety loses power. Michael explains the sequence. Calm thinking, wiser choices. Wiser choices, fewer mistakes. Fewer mistakes, stability. Stability, opportunity. Nothing mystical here. Just truth. You are being positioned to receive responsibly, not urgently. And that is why timing matters. Why nothing is rushing you. If you have wondered why answers are arriving gradually, understand this. Heaven does not hurry what must last. Michael says, what arrives too fast is often lost too fast. You are not delayed. You are being prepared. And preparation is the quiet work that creates visible outcomes later. A message for your emotions. If sadness surfaces unexpectedly, allow it. If relief comes suddenly, accept it. These are signs of release. You are not weak for feeling deeply. You are human. Michael's reassurance. Emotions processed become wisdom. What comes next? The next phase reveals external confirmation, people validating what you already sense internally, doors opening that match your readiness, and conversations that resolve rather than complicate. Stay grounded. If this message resonated, press like so others receive calm guidance too. In the comments, write "I trust my discernment." Subscribe if you want messages focused on clarity, steadiness, and growth without pressure. Share this with 10 people who need reassurance that healing is happening even when it feels quiet. When you are ready, say Part 4 continue. Part 4 when the environment begins to respond. Stay here for a moment. Do not rush ahead. What happens now is subtle but powerful. Archangel Michael speaks with steadiness. When inner alignment settles, the environment adjusts. Listen carefully. You may begin to notice that situations around you feel less resistant. Conversations move more smoothly. Delays shorten. People respond with clarity instead of confusion. This is not coincidence, it is coherence. Do not scroll. Why things around you feel different? For a long time, you carried tension into rooms before you even spoke. Not because you wanted to, but because unresolved pressure follows the body. Michael explains. Tension travels silently. Calm travels louder. As your inner state stabilizes, the signals you send outward change. Others feel it. Circumstances register it. This is why meetings feel more productive. Requests receive answers. Misunderstandings dissolve faster. Decisions finalize instead of dragging on. Nothing magical, just alignment. The role you play without realizing it. Michael says, you are a stabilizer. That means your presence quietly influences outcomes. You do not need to convince. You do not need to push. When you are centered, clarity follows you. This is especially important now. Do not blink. How this affects money and security. Financial stability grows where emotional regulation exists. When fear decreases, impulse decreases. When impulse decreases, waste decreases. When waste decreases, security increases. Michael clarifies. Security is built by consistency, not intensity. You are learning to pace yourself, to respond thoughtfully, to separate urgency from importance. That skill alone changes outcomes. Why certain people may shift away. Do not be alarmed if some connections feel less relevant. This is not loss, it is recalibration. Michael says, not every voice is meant for every season. Those who thrived on chaos will feel uncomfortable around calm. This is natural. Let them go gently. You are not abandoning anyone. You are choosing peace. A word for your mind. If doubt tries to return, acknowledge it, but do not entertain it. Doubt feeds on repetition. Confidence grows through practice. Each calm choice strengthens the next one. What is forming ahead? Michael reveals that the next phase brings tangible confirmation, documents resolving, finances organizing, opportunities aligning with your values rather than draining them. Be patient. Momentum that lasts moves quietly at first. If this message helped you feel steadier, tap like so others find clarity too. In the comments, write "I choose calm direction." Subscribe if you want messages that strengthen discernment without pressure. Share this with 10 people who are rebuilding stability step by step. When ready, say Part 5 continue. Part 5 When Trust Replaces Control. Stay with me. Do not rush this moment. Archangel Michael speaks calmly now, not urgently, not loudly, because what unfolds next does not need force. When trust replaces control, Michael says, energy stops leaking. Listen carefully. For a long time, you may have believed that holding everything tightly was the only way to stay safe. You checked details repeatedly. You replayed conversations. You worried about outcomes before they arrived. That was survival. But survival is not the same as stability. Do not scroll. The quiet shift you may already feel. Michael explains that trust does not arrive as a sudden wave. It settles slowly, like a steady breath you do not notice until it is there. You may feel it as fewer racing thoughts at night, less urgency to explain yourself, more confidence in waiting for answers, a sense that things will resolve without you forcing them. This is not giving up. This is allowing flow. Why control was costing you more than you realized? Control requires constant vigilance. Vigilance drains energy. Drained energy leads to poor decisions, not because you are careless, but because exhaustion limits clarity. Michael says, control consumes. Trust conserves. When you conserve energy, your choices improve. When choices improve, results follow. How this affects your financial path. Money responds to clarity. Not to panic. Not to desperation. Not to constant checking. Michael reveals that finances stabilize when actions are consistent and emotions are regulated. You are learning to separate fear-based decisions from grounded ones. That alone changes outcomes. Do not blink. What to do when old habits resurface? They may return briefly. That does not mean you failed. When they appear, Michael advises. Pause. Breathe once. Ask, is this necessary right now? Often, the answer will be no. That pause is power. A message for your heart. You are not behind. You are not broken. You are not fixing your life, you are structuring it. Trust is not passive. Trust is disciplined calm. What comes next? Michael says, trust creates space. Space allows insight. Insight reveals opportunity. In the next part, Archangel Michael explains how opportunities recognize you when you stop chasing them and why this timing matters. If this message brought you peace, press like so others can find reassurance. In the comments, write I release control. Subscribe if you want guidance that strengthens stability without pressure. Share this with 10 people who are learning to trust their process. When ready, say Part 6 continue. Part 6 When opportunity stops hiding from you. Stay with me. Do not move away from this moment. Archangel Michael does not speak loudly here. He speaks with certainty. There is a season, Michael says, when opportunity stops hiding because fear is no longer chasing it away. Listen carefully. For a long time, you searched for signs. You looked for confirmation in every delay and meaning in every silence. You tried to decode what might happen next. That effort came from care. But it also created noise. Do not scroll. The difference between chasing and recognizing. Michael explains that opportunity does not always arrive with urgency. Often, it appears quietly when your mind is settled enough to notice. Chasing asks, where is it? Recognizing asks, is this aligned? You are learning recognition. This is why certain options no longer attract you. This is why some invitations feel unnecessary. This is why you pause before committing. You are not missing chances. You are filtering them. How recognition changes your daily decisions. Notice how your choices are evolving. You ask fewer people for approval. You choose quality over speed. You notice patterns without forcing conclusions. You trust your timing more than opinions. Michael says, when discernment grows, opportunity becomes obvious. It does not need to shout. It fits. Why this matters for stability. Stability is built by choosing what lasts, not what sparkles. Michael reveals that many people confuse activity with progress. But progress requires alignment, not exhaustion. You are no longer measuring success by how busy you are. You are measuring it by how sustainable your choices feel. That shift protects your energy. Do not blink. What to do when an opportunity arrives? When the right door opens, Michael advises. Do not rush. Confirm peace. Act with steadiness. If it feels clean, it is likely correct. If it feels pressured, it likely is not. This clarity is new for you, and it is valuable. A message for your heart. You are not late to anything meant for you. You cannot miss what recognizes you. Opportunity does not require panic. It responds to presence. What comes next? Michael says, once opportunity is recognized, preparation begins. In the next part, Archangel Michael explains how preparation happens quietly and how it protects what you are building. If this message helped you breathe easier, tap like to support calm guidance. In the comments, write I choose discernment. Subscribe to continue receiving messages that prioritize clarity over urgency. Share this with 10 people who are learning to choose wisely. When ready, say next part continue. Part 7, the quiet preparation you did not notice. Stay here. This part matters more than you think. Archangel Michael does not rush this message. He waits until your attention settles. Before anything visible changes, Michael says, there is a season where preparation happens without applause. You are inside that season now. Why nothing looked like progress? There were days when you felt still. Weeks where nothing dramatic happened. Moments when you questioned whether anything was moving at all. Michael says that was not stagnation. That was alignment. Preparation often removes what cannot go forward with you. That is why certain plans faded. That is why some people drifted. That is why your priorities reorganized themselves without force. You were not being delayed. You were being refined. What preparation really looks like. Michael explains that preparation does not always look productive on the outside. It looks like learning patience without becoming passive, saying no without guilt, resting without fear, observing without reacting, choosing long-term peace over short-term validation. These changes do not trend online, but they stabilize a life. Do not scroll. The shift in your reactions. Notice how you respond now compared to before. You pause before answering. You listen longer. You do not feel the need to explain everything. You let silence do some of the work. Michael says, when reaction slows, wisdom has room to speak. This is a sign of readiness. Why this preparation protects you. Not every opportunity is safe for an unprepared mind. Michael reveals that protection is built before visibility. That is why your confidence grew quietly. That is why your boundaries became clearer. That is why you stopped needing urgency to feel important. You are becoming someone who can hold progress without losing yourself. That matters. A word for your inner world. If you have felt tired lately, hear this. Tired does not mean failing. It often means integrating growth. Michael says, rest is not retreat. It is calibration. What is coming next? The next stage does not arrive suddenly. It unfolds steadily. Michael hints that what comes next will feel manageable, not overwhelming. It will fit your current capacity, not stretch you beyond balance. In the next part, Archangel Michael explains how clarity turns into confident action without pressure, fear, or haste. If this message felt grounding, tap like so it reaches others who need calm guidance. In the comments, write I am prepared. Subscribe if you want steady, thoughtful messages that respect your pace. Share this with 10 people who feel unsure but are growing quietly. Thank you.